Ed in Albany, Oregon. Hey, Ed, what's on your mind?
I'm right here. I'd like to talk about Keynesian economics, which is always proposed as a cure for the failings of capitalism, but it never works. It's a short-term proposition. A shot in the arm, and it's faded out, and then you're back to where you were. How about that? Do you know Maynard Keynes?
I do, and I've read his work, and I'm familiar with how it was applied during the Franklin Roosevelt administration, and basically what what Keynes was talking about was a two-step process. One is you regulate capitalism aggressively so that it cannot break the country and the people that it's supposed to be serving.
Like the Scandinavian countries.
Right, and number two, you use the government to fill in the bumps, basically, because typically capitalism produces a recession every 5 to 10 years and a Great Depression every 60 to 80 years. And so if the government steps in as the employer of last resort, like FDR did with the CCC and the WPA, and a lot of the other projects, the TVA and et cetera, if the government steps in as the employer of last resort, then they can smooth out those bumps of capitalism. We didn't have that happen in 2008, which was a real disaster for a lot of people. Millions of Americans got badly screwed because the Republicans would not allow, and many of the corporate Democrats were not enthusiastic about a return to Keynesian economics.
They're capitalists also. They're both trying to save the capitalist system. That's what Roosevelt said. His real accomplishment was to save the capitalist system.
I know. But see, the alternatives that he was facing were communism and fascism, both of which in the 1930s were perceived as possible solutions to the problems of capitalism. We had not yet seen the horrors of fascist Germany, and we had not yet seen the horrors of communist Soviet Union. I was
born in 1927. I have a lot of history, and not near as much reading as Tom has.
Yeah. Well, tell me if you were born in 1927, Ed, you've seen a lot more of life in this country than I have. I was born in 51. What am I missing here, and what's the alternative? What are you suggesting?
The alternative is that if no matter how socialism comes to power, we'd like it to come to power through a peaceful means. But the capitalists never want to let us do that. But no matter how it is done, if it's done evolutionary, which would be my choice, and I'm happy to go with a social democracy and then gradually evolve. But you understand that the profit system is never ending, and they're unscrupulous. They caused all the wars we've had. I maintain that the profit motive has been the most destructive force the earth has ever been subjected to. Resource waste and all the things that go with it. And
go ahead. The
necessity of capitalism to run is it has to have continual growth, it has to have continual expansion of debt, and these are things that we're going to do in a finite system. We're only one globe, I say we have to throw away the motor that's got 3 broken cylinders and the oil is spewing all over the road and put another one in. Get this bus back on the road on a cooperative basis, a non-profit basis.
Yeah, I agree, and that's Richard Wolff's prescription.
That means you shut down the war industry and you shut down Wall Street. Take it over and turn the banks into what their namesakes suggest, the People's Bank of so-and-so, or the Citizens Bank, the U.S. Bank.
Let each state have its own bank, or each state should, just take the initiative and create their own bank. I agree. And the metaphor that I use, the metaphor that I would use rather than the bus is cancer. Cancer is when an individual cancer cell says, hey, greed is good. I'm going to start consuming all the resources, and I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to grow as fast as I can without any restrictions. And in a biological system, in our bodies, we call that cancer. And yet that is the essence of capitalism, is a small group of people who have the most capital are in a position, if you look at, some of the really big companies, whether it's Apple or Microsoft, or, just to use the software versions, where if somebody comes along with a nice little app that adds a feature to Microsoft's operating system or to Apple's operating system, they just buy the company out, or they run them out of business, by just incorporating that feature themselves. So they've got so much money that they can afford to basically, be the big fish that eats all the little and medium-sized fish, and that that behavior is very much like cancer, and cancer always ends badly. And
big cities are more like cancer right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe that we are in the cancer stage of this phase of capitalism right now. In my book, The Crash of 2016, it's basically all about this kind of stuff, and I talk about that at some great length. Ed, thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you, and thank you for watching Free Speech TV. And it's great to hear wisdom from somebody who is one of my elders.